Joining us, senior NBA insider for ESPN, ladies and gentlemen, in front of the program, Charania.
Yeah, Shami.
Wow, look how cool you look, Sean.
What's good? Pat, I don't know how you do it. One day you're in London, next day you're in Indy, in the Thunderdome. Yeah. We got to give you props for that.
Well, I appreciate you doing that. There's a lot of people that hate everything about it, but I do, and I've heard from them, obviously, in the last 24 hours in a big way. But I appreciate you, man. Just trying to work as hard as you and as hard as the insiders do. With that being said, Shams, you're the guy that has always kept us informed on what's going on in the association. From what I've been told, you have some massive breaking news here, Shams.
Pat, I do have some news. Sources tell ESPN, sources tell us on the Pat McAfee Show here. Carmelo Anthony has been notified. He has been elected into the Basketball Hall of Fame, the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class of 2025. He's the landmark player, the big name player here for this Hall of Fame class, and 10-time All-Star, 6-time All-NBA team, the 10th leading scorer of all time in NBA history. We know how great he was with the New York Knicks, the Denver Nuggets. He had late runs with the Thunder, the Portland Trailblazers, finished his career with the Lakers. He is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Congratulations, Melo! Obviously, 7 p.m. in Brooklyn is fantastic. He's a businessman. I think it just came out that he's looking to potentially get ownership of the Wizards. Just a kid from Baltimore that has obviously transformed not only him, but his whole family's lives with an incredible work ethic that has now led to him being a first ballot Hall of Famer. He used to be so silky. Just take over games, too. You know, people talk about being able to create your own shot or being able to knock down shots. Obviously, we're just talking about Steph and everything like that. And we talk about the big guys that were shooters. It was like Melo was one of the first guys that was so silky, big man, and he always looked so cool while he was doing it. Congrats to him. He's part of that class, you know. Braun, CP, Dwayne Wade, Melo, they're all like boys, I believe, and they all have obviously impacted the game in a massive way.
Yeah, and even before he went pro, like his one-and-done year at Syracuse, probably the best one-and-done ever on the collegiate level. Just a bucket, an absolute bucket. We talk about these stat lines with Joker and what Steph put up. I know a few years ago he had a stat line, 62 points, no rebounds, no assists, no other bullshit, just straight buckets. And that's Melo right there, man. It's a dope honor to see him going in first ballot. Well
and DB, an inspiration. You think about, everyone looks at Kevin Durant now, the greatest scorer of all time, or one of the greatest scorers of all time. You know, pure basketball scorer. That's what Carmelo Anthony was. He's arguably the most pure scorer even to this day. So he is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
His boy too, right?
Oh yeah,
committed to
going to Syracuse.
Yeah. He's a congrats, Melo. That's a big ordeal. Obviously, your peers think you're great. That's all you could ever really hope for. Now, what do you guys do? A jacket over there in the NBA? A ring? What is it?
No, there's definitely a ring. There's an orange jacket that I'm sure you guys can find a picture of somewhere. But there is a nice ceremony. They're going to be enshrined. There's going to be an announcement this weekend in San Antonio at the Final Four on Saturday, and then there's going to be a formal enshrinement in the fall.
Okay, well, can't wait to celebrate it all. And he headlines the 2025 Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame class. Well-deserved, well-earned. All right, let's talk about some other things happening around the NBA. We just talked about Steph Curry going apeshit last night. And obviously this Golden State team, since the Jimmy Butler trade, has been a different squad than it was at the beginning of the year. What should we think about the Golden State Warriors? And are they a real threat to go win this entire thing with Jimmy Butler now on their team alongside Draymond, Steph, and the boys?
Jimmy Butler wanted out of Miami? Jimmy Butler got traded?
No,
I didn't know. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. He wanted to go to Golden State at first. Wow, this is shocking. I'm surprised he's there. They're 18-2 with him. And the biggest issue for the Warriors before they got Jimmy Butler was when Stephen Curry is off the floor, they were minus 60. With Jimmy Butler in the lineup, they're plus 41, I believe, is the stat. That is a massive difference. The impact that he has, you can't put numbers to it. And honestly, Pat, Jimmy Butler's season's coming up. That's the playoffs. That's when he takes his game to a whole nother level. But what Steph Curry's doing right now, I mean, to me, of course, the athleticism, the speed, that all fades with age, with time. Father Time's undefeated. You guys just had LeBron James in there. I know, was it last week? He's also taken a dip when speed and athleticism. So has Steph. But what both of them, I think, are even elevated with now is skill, smarts, IQ, and honestly, their conditioning and overall basketball acumen. I mean, and that's what Stephen Curry's doing right now. I think he's just as good of a shooter now, if not better than he's ever been.
Yeah, the Jimmy Butler and Steph seem to be perfect together. Draymond, Jimmy Butler seem to be perfect together. And you think about just Draymond and Jimmy in the playoffs, that's going to be hell in a best of 7, no matter who it is. Just dealing with, let alone playing basketball, dealing with them is going to be a problem in a series. It's going to be good to see Golden State back into the conversation. And now all eyes with the current seeding are saying that we got a potential LeBron and Luka versus Steph and Jimmy in the first round. It's like,
if I'm the Lakers, though, I'm trying to move up. I'm trying to get to like number 3. If I can play Memphis at 6. But, you look at the standings right there. Like Minnesota's in position right now. The way they're surging, they look like the team that's going to be primed for the 6th seed. But if I'm the Lakers, I'm trying to get to 3 and pray that Memphis can get 6 because that's an easier path potentially. The Warriors are going to be a problem. Like you said, Draymond Green, dog. Jimmy Butler, dog. These guys are go-getters. These guys, and that's the other thing. They've bonded. They've really come together. That was a big worry for the Warriors. How would Jimmy Butler come in and coexist? He's been perfect for them.
Draymond said on his podcast, we don't have any idea how Shams found out. We were at a house party. So unless it was the people serving us drinks in the house. And is your name Shams? Have we been saying it wrong this entire time?
Nah, it's Shams. It's Shams. Draymond knows that. Come on, Draymond.
That's awesome. We like that even more. Okay, you talked about the Lakers moving up. Well, they would have to pass Denver. Joker just went for 61 in a triple-double. Obviously, that's going to be a tough task. In a loss to the Timberwolves, who you've talked about, is currently surging. On that note, D-Bud has a question for you.
It's currently surging, but ownership has finally changed hands, going from Glenn over to Mark and A-Rod. Any more details on that? I saw you tweeted out. I saw the number. I know the number surprised me. It's still $1.5 billion that they agreed to in 2021, which is crazy after seeing what the Celtics just went for. But any other details with this Timberwolves trade? Ownership change.
This. I mean, it really is a trade. It's a trade of Glenn Taylor out after 31 years of ownership, the old guard per se out, and that's something that Minnesota, that market, they've been kind of waiting for this to settle. Will it settle? How will it happen? And Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez, they brought this vibrant energy to that market, and they're fully invested in that market. They have plans to build a new arena. You look at, they hired Tim Connolly, the president of basketball operations there. He was the former president of the Denver Nuggets, who won a championship the year after he left with the team that he constructed, and now he's running things in Minnesota. That's their guy. And what we've seen here around Anthony Edwards, around this young team, Julius Randle has played at a much higher level. He has 3 straight games of 25 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. He's turned it around, and he's become a key member of this team, allowing them to have another playmaker with Anthony Edwards. But it's a totally different vibe with A-Rod and Mark Lowry. And one other thing to keep an eye on, guys, they're going to work to rekindle that relationship with Kevin Garnett. Kevin Garnett still does not have his number 21 big ticket jersey retired as a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves. He refused to get that retired with Glenn Taylor as an owner. Now, I do expect that to change, and I do expect them to have some more conversations on what potential role he could have with that organization, with Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry moving forward. But this is big news for the league. $1.5 billion. You have to give Glenn Taylor a shout out. He bought the team in 1994 for $94 million. He has now sold it finally for $1.5 billion. Not a bad come up, even though it took some scraping and clawing to get here.
Yeah, certainly for Glenn Taylor, $94 million in 1994. I assume that was considered a massive amount of money. And then he sells and becomes a billionaire with the sole sale to Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lowry. Congrats, A-Rod, by the way, former athlete in the business world. We're obviously incredibly pumped for him for that. But that $1.5 billion number seems wild whenever you read it. Now, this was agreed to in 2021, and obviously there was litigation. And that was
a heist.
Yeah, okay.
It's a heist.
Could A-Rod and Mark literally put that thing up for sale right now? And they get $3 billion, I'd assume. If you were to go ahead.
No team is selling for less than $3 billion ever again in the NBA. So just right off the bat, that's why if there was ever a question, there was a lot of chatter in the space. Do they have the money? Do they have this? They've had the money. They've had the money. I think I said it on this show at the start of the season. They've had almost $1 billion sitting in escrow escrow, waiting for Glenn Taylor to cede and relinquish this so they can wire it over to him, and that's still the case. So they have to do that here in the coming weeks. Then they're waiting on the Board of Governors vote, which is all expected to be a formality. But this team, right off bat, with Anthony Edwards in that market, they have control of their arena as well for the next 7-8 years. That's a big aspect of it. And which part?
Come on.
What else they get?
The Minnesota Lynx.
Come on.
And the Minnesota Lynx. Minnesota Timberwolves and Minnesota Lynx.
Okay,
yes, that was in the tweet,
Thank
though.
you.
That was in the tweet.
Yeah,
that was in the tweet.
I just want to make sure we all understand. I just want to make sure we all understand what's happening here.
Oh, don't.
Couple franchises. Well, hey, a lot of people saying stuff about us. A lot of stuff. Just want to make sure we knew. We knew. Congrats to the Lynx on the new ownership as well. And congrats.
Shout out the Lynx. Nafisa Collier. One of the best WNBA players out there, started Unrivaled, which I think we broke on this show. We talked about on this show. So,
I watched the Vinyl team play.
Yeah, the Vinyl and the Roses.
I watched them play down there. It was good stuff. We were actually going to send somebody down there because we didn't see a lot of. Did we?
No,
not really.
No,
No,
we actually saw the Lynx shooting hoops yesterday on Twitter. That was going around again.
Yeah, congrats to all parties here in Minnesota, and we are happy that A-Rod is now the owner of a team.
Pumped.
Okay, because former players getting into ownership, I think, is good, and if they're able to bring back KG into the fold, that's obviously good news for all
former
parties.
Former player, young owner, brings a different energy. Anytime you can bring some youth into it, bring some energy. Minority owner as well. So yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a big moment for the league to have Alex Rodriguez and Mark Laurie soon to be sworn in as an owner.
They need to think about just putting that thing back up for sale.
Fact.
You know, they need to just think about putting it back up for sale.
Smart.
And double their money easily, seemingly.
Is Washington selling at any point? I know Melo talked about it. But
Yeah, like for a pack of bubble gum, I think is what they're saying.
No, they're really good.
Would that be Bezos? Washington?
Oh,
Maybe.
Or even Harris.
Oh, yeah, Josh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but are you allowed to? Did he have to sell Sixers to be a part of Commanders?
What about
No,
Kronk?
no,
No,
he still owns the team.
Oh, you can own. Okay. Anyways, there's people who have a lot of money these days. And owning a sports team is like the thing for all these mega billionaires who own boats that are bigger than that boat that is rolling through the back of Shams' shop. They would do that. They would buy, especially with Ant on that team, fresh out of what happened last night. Joker goes for 61 in a loss against the Minnesota Timberwolves with how electrifying that atmosphere was. I know it was in Denver, not Minnesota, but it's like the NBA, I think, is in a good time right now. Yeah. Now, there is some conversation around some stars that are currently taking place. Connor has a question for you.
Yeah, Shams. KD and the Suns. Unfortunately, KD gets hurt. Feels like he might be done for the year. They're kind of out of the playoff race right now. Saw some rumors, Kevin Durant loves Boston. Maybe he, goes up there, decides, might as well pass on some more knowledge to Tatum and grab a couple more rings. What are you hearing with KD? I believe it was reported that they're already trying to work out something of, kind of letting KD go where he wants to go. And
which would be where? Pacers?
Which would probably be Boston.
Miami?
Just because Boston, we're joking about, the T-Wolves selling for $1.5 billion. Hey, guess what? No other basketball team's going for more than the Celtics because the Celtics are a brand, and we're talking about Kevin Garnett and the T-Wolves. No one remembers KG from the T-Wolves. They remember him as a Boston Celtic because that's where he won a championship. Just like Peyton Manning with the Colts, you only see him in a Broncos uniform. But what do you hear?
How it ended?
Sure, maybe, but again, exactly.
$6 billion is what the Celtics went for.
Yeah, 6.1, most ever.
You know what, BC? I think you might end up being the most hated man in Indy today after that comment about good old Peyton Manning.
Nah, I think there's a lot of people in Indy that are like, we're not happy about the way it all went down either. But nonetheless, KD going to the Celtics is crazy to think about, especially on the run that they're on. But I guess this is a real possibility after this season. What are we hearing with KD and the Suns? Because it was my understanding that was like going to be an impossible thing to get done. Either trade in more players to the Suns because of everything they've kind of given up to build this team, or to get rid of any guys, how much it would affect them. KD could be moved. What is the likelihood of this, and how does it work out?
Definitely could be. So you look at this from a macro perspective. We've seen from Matt Ishbia the last 2.5 years how aggressive he's been. He has not spared any expenses. He's clearly showing that as an owner, as an NBA owner, he's willing to take multiple swings. He wants to take millions of swings at the bat to try to win a championship. That's what he did 2 years ago when he went and got Kevin Durant. This iteration of this team, Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, then you bring in Bradley Beal the summer of 2024, or summer 2023, it just hasn't worked out in Phoenix. And from a holistic perspective, there's going to be changes coming to Phoenix, barring a miracle finish to the year. There's going to be a lot that they're going to have to look at to evaluate throughout the organization. But from a roster perspective, that's going to start with Kevin Durant and potentially finding him a new home. Unlike at the trade deadline when he was almost traded to the Warriors, the Suns, Kevin Durant, they would work together on any trade. But I can tell you guys this, back at the NBA trade deadline, there were a list of teams that there was mutual interest with Kevin Durant and those teams from my understanding. And that's Minnesota, that's New York, that's Houston, San Antonio, Miami.
Okay.
Those are the types of teams, from my understanding, that had interest then, and I expect them all to be in the mix this offseason. But the biggest thing to keep an eye on for all NBA fans and fans of those teams, how does your team finish in the playoffs? How do the playoffs go? Because that's going to really determine who feels like they're a Kevin Durant away. And there's going to be, they might not get what they got back, what they gave up for Kevin Durant. You think about all the picks and the swaps, but they're going to get a pretty good haul back for a guy. He just finished his 12th year, Pat, averaging 25 points and 50% shooting, 12 consecutive seasons. I saw Tim Legler say on NBA Today earlier this week, Michael Jordan and Kawhi Leonard have 10 combined over the course of their careers. So Kevin Durant's done it 12 consecutive years. He's still playing at an elite level. The Suns could get a haul for him this summer. I expect those conversations to heat up, really is the playoffs and into the offseason, into the draft.
Loves ball, too, right? Like, that's kind of the thing. He just loves ball, loves hooping through and through, loves trolling every once in a while, loves burying people on the internet every once in a while, which we respect over here at the Pat McAfee Show. But then him still being able to just shoot whenever he wants to. I had a chance to talk to the Texas Longhorns equipment manager. KD donated a lot of money back to Texas to build them a practice facility, and that was a place where he would work out during the offseason or whatever. And the Texas equipment manager would tell me he'd be in there at like midnight or 1 a.m., whatever it is, shooting. And he would do some shooting drill for threes. And he would stop and go back to the beginning. He's trying to get through it. If he didn't like the sound of the swish, let alone just swishing every shot, it was the sound of the splash would make him restart the drill or whatever. So when you talk about work ethic and being meticulous about greatness, like there's a reason 12 straight years you're able to accomplish something like that. Now, he says he's not 7 foot. Everybody around him says he's anywhere from 6'9" to 6'11", but when you're around him, he's like 7'2" or whatever. And I don't think he wanted to be known as like the 7 foot tall in the paint, because when he comes into the league, vastly different story for 7-footers versus what it is now. He's obviously transformed the game, and he's obviously an inspiration. We talked about Carmelo. KD is for a lot of guys as well. But if he gets into his stage of his career here, going into year 13, where he can just Ray Allen, like all he's going to really have to do is just kind of for 20 more years, if you really wanted to. I'm not going to say we're not going to see the silky sweet Kevin Durant fade away, take over a game like he did in the Olympics for Team USA and everything like that. But he's getting into a stage just like LeBron with Luka, where he can cut off ball. Let me go ahead and just kind of chill. Yeah. I mean, that's dangerous. That is a dangerous thing just to add to a team like Wemby. Wemby's going to take up a lot of attention, obviously, the way they're being built. So if KD can be attention getter number 3 on a team or something like that's an insane period to be in.
It's a cheat code. It was a part when he went to the Warriors with the Splash Brothers. Like, it was impossible because you couldn't help off those guys, and now you got KD ISO and the style of his game. To your point, he can play at a very, very high level for another 4-5 years with how he's always able to create a shot with his height and his length. But he has handles like that. That's what kind of became the new archetype now with Chet and Wemby and these long, tall guys who can actually handle the ball, shoot the ball, and you mentioned it, can play in any type of offense. So, Kevin, Miami.
No, Indiana.
Miami. Beautiful. Spo.
Houston makes the most sense because him and Udoka have a really good relationship from Brooklyn, and also they don't really have like a KD player. They have like Amen Thompson, who everyone is falling in love with. He's going off, and then also like Sengun, Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, but they don't have like a KD-esque player.
Feels like you were agreeing there, Shams, whenever Connor was saying.
Yeah, I mean, Houston, that's a team that you have to look at. They have the leadership, Ime Udoka. They have pieces in place. I will say this, though. Miami really had an opportunity to go get Kevin Durant at the trade deadline this past the deadline in February. They offered Jimmy Butler and Josh Richardson for Kevin Durant. You know, you up the ante a little bit. You got to up the ante. We're talking about Kevin Durant here.
Does Kevin Durant like chocolate chip cookies or no?
That I don't have access to that information. Who doesn't like Pat? Find me who doesn't like chocolate chip cookies.
Pat Riley doesn't like people liking them. Pat Riley, that's
the problem. That's the problem. We have to.
We heard it was a problem.
We have to have a cookie investigation.
Big problem.
But I will say for BC, for his Celtics, there was a lot of mutual interest between Kevin Durant and the Celtics in the summer of 2022 when he asked for a trade. And I know right now you probably hate me saying this. They offered Jaylen Brown. They offered Derek White. They offered a first-round pick.
I remember.
Brooklyn had said no, and they kept him. And then they ultimately traded him for a haul from Phoenix. So it's just tough now, even if the Celtics had interest, even if Kevin Durant wants to go badly to the Boston Celtics now, from a cap machinations perspective, they would have to trade 2-3 players, significant players. We're talking like guys like Drew, Jaylen Brown, Porzingis, multiple guys, just to get Kevin Durant.
Done.
Don't make that face.
Finals MVP. BC, you would do that. You would do that, BC. You would trade Jaylen and Drew.
I would never do that, but I don't know if you guys have seen, Sharman, old 55, the boy we got from Creighton last year. He's a hooper, brother. And by the way, hey, who's the G League MVP? Shams, why don't you tell the people?
J.D. Davidson. I just saw that.
J.D. Davidson. Who's he play for? Oh, the Maine Lobster Claws, or whatever their name is. Whatever their name is.
You guys are getting younger and better, huh?
Yeah. They might be the Maine Celtics now, though. So shout out Maine.
The Maine Lobster Claws are a problem, dude.
You have no idea.
I think maybe Bronny didn't get to play in enough games, though. That's probably why he wasn't the MVP, because he was splitting time with the Lakers and the G League.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, maybe that's why the Lobster Claw was able to get the MVP.
I mean, you don't want to see the Claws break it down on defense, brother.
Well, I was actually in Maine the other day. Bangor, Maine.
Great place.
I stopped by Bangor, Maine. Shout out to my guy, Joe. Joe was awesome. On the plane, off the plane. The Maine Celtics now, but they are a Lobster Claw away.
Yeah, I mean, look, when I loved and lived and died with them, they were the Lobster Claws. So what do you want from me?
Yeah, you're an old school fan, of course.
Exactly.
Excited to see what happens with KD. Maybe he comes to the Indiana Pacers. Speaking of future players that we have a lot of vested interest in, Ty has a question for you.
Yeah, Shams, it's that time. Need another Zion update. So, I mean, at this point, this is the 4th season where he's played 30 games or less. They're sitting him for the rest of the year. We had the kind of not narrative. He said earlier this year, like, listen, I want to play. I'm ready to play. They don't want me to play. We saw him get in the best shape of his life this year as well. At what point does the rubber meet the road here? I mean, I think it's pretty evident, like, he needs to get out of New Orleans. He needs a new home. So what the hell is happening?
Ty, this summer, I think, is the moment of truth for the Pelicans and for Zion Williamson. Like, for Zion Williamson, we see right there, he's missed more games than he's played, right? Like, we know when he's on the floor, that's the thing. When he's on the floor, he has game-changing ability. He makes this team a contender. This is a team, the last couple of years, before he's had injuries, they're fighting for the playoffs. One year, it was either last year or the year before, they literally were like a top 2 or 3 seed in the NBA, in the Western Conference, and then he suffers a hamstring strain and he's out for months and months and months, which is the same, which has happened repeatedly. He's had chronic hamstring injuries. So, my educated, knowledge-based look at this situation is the Pelicans and Zion Williamson have to have a sit down this summer and really get on the same page. And I know people are on Zion Williamson, they're looking out for the best in him, want to see him succeed at a really high level. And that starts with everything. He got suspended early in the year for being late to a team flight. And that's not the first time he's been late. And so the biggest thing for the Pelicans is getting him on board, getting both sides to figure out exactly where this is going to go if this team is going to be realizing its potential. Because on paper, they've got a really, really talented roster. They just have not been able to put it together, and a lot of it starts with health.
On paper, Zion, great basketball player, right?
Oh, yeah.
He is elite. He is if he is able to put together a 65-game NBA season, he's an all-NBA player. He's an all-star player. He's a player who, at his peak, should be competing for MVPs. And everyone around the league knows that. It's just about, can he put it together from health, from conditioning, from all of the traits that are necessary to be a leader of an NBA franchise, and that's being on time, that's being the first person in every room, that's being the leader in practice, that's everything that we see from guys like LeBron and Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry. And these are traits that even guys like Anthony Edwards, they have to learn and see, but they get there. You know, the biggest thing is people want to get on Luka Doncic for his conditioning and all that. People want to get on, you know, and Edwards, his maturity, things like that. But those guys play, they compete, and they produce at high levels. We just haven't seen that from sustained amount of time. But the NBA is a much better place when Zion Williamson is on the court and he's balling out, because he has the potential to be one of the best players in the league.
Okay, so there's this conversation happening with the Colts too, you know? Like, it takes a little bit to realize the responsibility that is placed upon you as a professional athlete, let alone professional athlete, franchise player. What it means not only to yourself, to your teammates, but to the fans, to the city, to the organization, how you kind of operate. We've been on this ride with Zion since literally the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay, like literally since the beginning.
This is the Zion Williamson show, by the way.
I introed Zion in one of his first games that he played down there because I was so upset that the Pelicans didn't intro him last in his debut game. His debut game was on national television. Why? Because it was Zion's debut game, and they had him introed like second or third. I'm like, just give the guy the thing. Just give him the thing. Now, since that moment until now, it has been quite a ride alongside this Zion. He's been paid. He's been given a lot of money. He's performed on the court in a spectacular fashion. The Pelicans have been thought about as maybe a team that could go on a run. The Pelicans have been thought about as a team that maybe needs to sell. The Pelicans have been a team that have held him back. The Pelicans have been a team that have promoted him. It's been a wild relationship. And now he has a Naruto tattoo around his belly button.
Swag.
And we thought this was going to be his best go. And now he's done for the season again. There will be a lot of teams that would want to trade for him. Is that how this would go? This offseason?
Yeah, but like, you know, do you really want to trade a guy that just hasn't, like, it's also like you want to trade a guy at his peak value, right? Like, so what is really his value right now? And there are teams that will trade for him. A bunch of teams will trade for him. If the Pelicans said today, our goal and our mission is to trade Zion Williamson, they can get a pretty darn solid package. But the goal for the Pelicans, as it's always been, is like, how do we win? The last thing you want to do is trade Zion Williamson to wherever, LA or New York or this team, Miami, wherever, and he just skyrockets because he's able to find health. He's able to find that maturity, find that growth in his career. They want that to come in New Orleans. But I do believe, and people around the league do believe, both sides have to come together this summer and figure out exactly what that's going to look like. Because how it's going right now, it's not going to be sustainable for either side.
Figure it out, Diner.
Good luck.
They're not going to. That's kind of the problem. They've done this we've had this exact same conversation with Shams like the last 4 years. Like, these guys really need to get together this offseason and kind of figure out like how we're going to do this moving forward. It's like, yeah.
They have decisions that they're going to have to make. We talk about the Suns evaluating everything. The Pelicans are going to be in the same boat. They have to look at everything with the season that they just had.
And you just have to swallow that pill and be like, hey, we know, like, we're going to trade him to the Knicks. And then all of a sudden he's going to be weighing like 230. And he's going to be excited about life again. Like, that's how it goes. He doesn't want to be here anymore.
Well, and also to Zion's, you know, and he said it this year for the first time ever. I want to play. They will not let me play. Because over the last 4 years, however long it's been. Now, is he telling anybody he wants to play? Like, is he forcing himself on the court? Is a whole other conversation. But in years past, it appeared as if he would be healthy enough to play. But the Pelicans are like, he's not ready yet.
He hasn't done 2-on-2.
He's not ready yet. We need to do 3-on-2, 3-on-3, 4-on-3, 4-on-4, 5-on-4, 5-on-5, 5-on-1, 5-on-2. Like, it was just always something coming out of your mouth from the Pelicans organization on why we can't get this guy on the court for the games. Like, well, he needs to get in better shape. It's like, well, what better way to get in better shape than to play in these games? They were looking out for him. Now he has a bone bruise in his back. Like, all right, Zion, let's go, Pelicans. Zion.
Come on now.
We need you. He's electrifying.
Big time.
Without a doubt.
Awesome to watch.
Maybe.
Have him come play for the Pacers. Now, speaking of health, there is a much more serious convo taking place. Go ahead, Tone.
Yeah.
The Pacers. Have him come play for the Indiana Pacers.
Yeah, I mean, you sure
Zion, Indiana, alongside.
That's
This is not the spot
sure
for
you want him.
That
This
would
is
be
not the
lethal.
city for Zion.
you sure you want him?
Not in this city. What are we talking about?
Every menu is just deep fried thing after deep fried thing.
You want him at the Indiana
It's a Buca de Beppo. There's a Buca de Beppo down there in New Orleans as well. Which,
I mean, Hallie would make life amazing for a guy like that.
Yeah,
so I'm just looking for
Zion, Indiana.
Zion walks into one Fazzolini's and he's not leaving without a bucket of breadsticks, piping hot.
Yeah, but Coach Carlisle will have him on that court the next day.
Yeah.
I hope you had fun with your Italian at Buca di Beppo and Fazzolini's and all the other fast food joints that test in Indiana.
Bingo.
Which is accurate.
Yes.
We have every fast food chain in America in Indianapolis, Indiana, because I think we are a test city. Hey, if so maybe you're right. Maybe
the number he would.
Where do you want him to go then? Where do you want Zion to go to?
Look, and I don't want to sound like a homer, but I think he'd be great in Bucks.
Okay. All right, let's talk about more health stuff. Talon has a question for you.
Yeah, let's
Sean.
talk about a team that could play the Pacers in the playoffs. They are the 6th seed in the East right now. The Milwaukee Bucks, one game behind the Detroit Pistons. Dame Lillard, I believe it was last week that came out that he has blood clots in his right calf. I believe deep vein thrombosis is the term to be exact. Do we have any updates on Dame? Is there a chance that he gets back this season? Because I know he's out indefinitely.
Yeah, there is a chance. There's optimism, and with blood clots, usually it's an extended absence, it's a month-long absence. But I'm told his treatment started early. They identified kind of what it was. They started him on treatment. Then they finally got the diagnosis back. He's having doctor appointments every single week to gauge how that blood clot looks in that calf. My understanding is doctors are encouraged by where it's at. They see that blood clot is actually lowering. It's decreasing. It's diminishing. And he's doing some light workouts right now. He's hopeful to get cleared here in the next week and a half to go full go contact and then resume basketball and play in games for the Milwaukee Bucks. So that is good news, though. The doctors are going in. They're seeing that blood clot is actually diminishing in his right calf. We'll see if he's going to be able to make it back. That's going to be a fluid situation, but a lot of pressure. It is Dame time in Milwaukee right now. A lot of pressure on that organization and how they can compete. How can they win in the playoffs? Can they get by in the first round? They've been losing in the first round the last few years. And when you have a team with Giannis Antetokounmpo, Damian Lillard, 2 top 75 all-time greatest players, with Doc Rivers as your coach on a 4-year, $40 million deal, that's just not going to cut it. And we know Giannis has come out. He has said, I want to be somewhere where we're pursuing championships. I'm told every summer he's going to look at where am I going to get the best long-term sustained winning. Will that be in Milwaukee? We'll see.
Okay, last question from me because you brought up Giannis and everything like that. We didn't see. Did Shams say anything about what LeBron said? I didn't.
Radio silent.
Yeah,
it was radio silent.
Do you think Giannis could score 250 points in a game in the 1970s or no?
That's a lot of points. I mean, at some point, there's got to be some hard fouls given. There's got 250. What are we talking? We're talking like a 270, 270 to like 200 point game. Like, what are we talking about?
I mean,
so now you'd be saying that Giannis is not going to be on defensive end as well. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I've been watching a lot of 1970s film. I'm hearing a lot of people talk about the All-Stars and the Hall of Famers from the 1970s, but the league was a lot of teams, right?
Yeah, a lot of teams.
I don't think LeBron ever said against a team of All-Stars from the 1970s. Just said in a game.
I mean,
in the 1970s.
250 is a lot.
We'll see.
I will say that interview, Pat, I've never seen LeBron James give an interview like that before and talk the way he's talked, and it was refreshing to see.
I agree. That was so cool. And we assume you were a part of putting in positive words for him to come join us, just like we told Rich, and I assume there was many others that were like telling him that we would. I think he watches the show, though, so what up, Ron? And would like to let him know, ever since then, only shoes I'm wearing, bronze. Okay? Only wearing bronze. It's the least I could do. It's the least I could do for what he did for us. We appreciate the hell out of you, Shams. Thank you for joining us. Anything else we should chat about?
We talked about, we got to say, Nikola Jokic, what he did last night, 61 points, that triple-double. This stat line is crazy. I know everyone saying Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is running away with MVP. I mean, everyone around the league believes he's going to end up winning MVP, but Jokic is doing, everyone says all he wants to do is hang out with his horses. Clearly, he loves the game of basketball. Clearly, he's devoted to the game of basketball, and I actually believe his confidence with the game, he came in as a unheralded second-round pick. I don't know where he got the confidence to do what he's doing right now, becoming one of the best players potentially of all time. He reminds me a lot of Tim Duncan too. How calm he is, stoic he is. He doesn't care about media. He doesn't care about attention. He just wants to dominate, win championships, and I guess chill with his horses.
How about the other day where he takes a Euro step?
Crazy.
Oh, man.
Throws at
It just flicks in a three.
It's not a three.
It's
that was
insane.
3/4 of the court.
Yeah.
Puts it in.
It's the 3/4 court three. Yeah.
And then and then people were like, "Did you see this one? He did that shit before."
Oh, yeah.
It's like this, and it's just like Luka. When we watch Luka just throw it at the hoop, it's like, oh, it's very clear all these dudes did growing up was just get buckets.
Yeah.
Like that is very dribble probably by themselves.
Real
wherever.
gym rat. Talking about Durant, like he didn't like the sound of the swish. Like there's a legit gym. And the thing I love about Joker too is like he plays. Like I think he subbed in like midway through the second quarter yesterday and played the whole
40 straight.
Didn't come out of the game. So I love that about him. Just a dog to show up every night.
We appreciate the hell out of you, Sean.
Just a dog.
The
Appreciate you guys.
association's in a
Thank
good
you.
spot. As are you, ladies and gentlemen. Sean Charania.
Wanna try to boast at what I look like. Think I'm gonna try to wear, pull up long range. Jimmy with the heat, I'm on fire. It's NBA over here, feeling fun.